Copy 724, right. Center maintain 2000.
Center maintain 2074.
Comment 504 to center maintain 3000.
3000, comment 504.
In this video, we're going to be covering the second part of the aircraft maintenance requirements. So the first question we want to cover is, let's say if there is some equipment called which is not working, so inoperative equipment. Can you still legally fly a flight? Can you still legally conduct a flight with an inoperative equipment? So the answer is that yes. So basically, you can do a flight if the equipment is not essential for the safe flight. And there are two things need to consider: that the operation of the aircraft with the minimum equipment list, so that is in there. So minimum equipment list is there, right? And there are sections where even when there is no minimum there are sections where there is no MEL, minimum equipment list. How can you operate the flight, and what are we're gonna be going into the details, but the answer is yes, you can. Okay, so if something is not working, we cannot just straightly say that okay, we're not going to be flying the plane. We can, depending on whether we have a minimum equipment list, and there are operation of an aircraft without a minimum equipment list too. Okay, so what are the limitations? Basically, limitations which apply to the aircraft operations, conducted by the deferral provision. So these are in the CFR 14, CFR 91. That's the code of FAA, but it's called the it's called deferral provision. So when inoperative equipment is found during the pre-flight or prior to the departure, right, the decision should be to cancel the flight, right? That could be one decision, right? Or you can obtain the minimum you can obtain the maintenance prior to the flight, or to defer the item or equipment maintenance deferrals, right? Or to defer the item or equipment. So what does this deferral provision says? Again, if you see that before the flight that something is wrong, either cancel a flight, or obtain the maintenance prior to the, ask someone, or if you are capable enough, do the maintenance on it. And the third thing is the deferral provision, which is defer the item. It's called deferring the item, meaning we're gonna be doing it later on. So maintenance deferrals are not used for in-flight discrepancies, right? So these deferrals are not used for the in-flight discrepancies. uh, and if there is something going wrong inside the airplane while you are flying it, then you're gonna be referring to the what they call POH or AFM procedures in that situation. But yes, you can actually, there is a thing called deferral provision, and you can defer the equipment to get fixed at a later stage. So let's say if there is you did the pre-flight inspection and of an aircraft which does not have an MEL, the minimum equipment list, right? You notice that the instrument or the equipment item is inoperative. So the examiner may ask you, the flight instructor may ask you like, describe your thought process or determine if the aircraft is still airworthy to flight. It does not have the minimum equipment list, and still explain your thought process. What are you thinking about, or how would you make a decision that even without uh, not having MEL, minimum equipment list, like in operative, which is operational, what would be your thought process? Okay, so basically you can say that uh, first of all you're going to be checking, are the inoperative equipments or the equipment part of the or the equipment, is it part of the VFR day type certification? That's the first thing we want to see, that is it like VFR day type certification, like it is part of MEL, it is not working, but maybe it is not the VFR day type certificate is needed for the day type certification, right? uh, the other thing is, so by the operations equipment list, like in the so like basically in the manual, like is it listed as required uh, on the aircraft's equipment list, or it's called like the kind of operational equipment list? So is it like a required one by the uh, in order to do that flight? Again, the third one is like, it is kind of what we had this one, but over here we just said, is it the VFR day type certification needed for the day type certification, or it could be like, is it is it required by specific certification? And over here you can cover VFR, IFR, and IFR is the instrument flight rating, and then daytime and nighttime. So kind of the similar thing, but a little bit expanded. Okay, and then you can say that, so the inoperative equipment, is it needed by the AD, the airworthiness directive? Again, let me summarize it. The equipment went bad. Some of the equipment went bad. My thought process is gonna be, is it on the one which is only needed for the by the VFR day VFR and daytime conditions? Do we need it on that one or not? Is it mentioned in the manual that it is a required equipment in order to fly the airplane? Third thing is it required for a specific certification like daytime, nighttime, VFR, IFR? And the fourth one is it considered required in any of the airworthiness directive? If any of these things is yes, then I'm not gonna be flying the plane. That is one way of answering that question there. Yeah. Okay, fourth one. So what are the minimum equipment lists? MEL. Again, over here we're just going to be going through the definition. So it's a precise listing of instruments, equipment, and procedures that allows an aircraft to be operated under specific conditions with inoperative equipment. That's it. So what is it? It's a list. As I said, it's a list uh, like of instruments and equipment and procedures uh, that allows an aircraft to be operated under specific conditions if the equipment is not working. Okay, the during the flight review, he may ask you like, okay, he may point out that, okay, let's say that the position lights are inoperative, like let's position lights are inoperative. So it's kind of we're going to be covering a scenario. So basically, you're going to be going through your design decision process. So it's an approved MEL. If the position lights are discovered inoperative prior to a daytime flight, the pilot would make an entry in the maintenance record or discrepancy record provided for that purpose, right? And then the item is then either repaired or deferred in accordance with the MEL. So it can be repaired right away, or it can be deferred, again depending on the same thought process we covered in the previous question. Okay, what are the limitations that apply to aircraft operations being conducted using an MEL? If you are flying with the minimum equipment list, what are the limitations? So the use of MEL for a small non-turbine powered airplane, right, allows for the deferral of inoperative items or equipment. So this like the FAA considers an approved MEL to be a supplemental type certificate instead of an aircraft by serial number or registration number. So once an operator requests an MEL and a letter of authorization uh, that is issued by the FAA, then the MEL becomes mandatory for the flight. So when you ask the FAA that, okay, please give us a letter of authorization and an MEL, then that becomes the mandatory uh, record or document for the aircraft, right? And all the future deferrals, the maintenance deferrals must be done in accordance with that documentation provided by FAA. Now we're going to be covering what are the instruments and equipment that are required for a VFR day flight. So the acronym which you need to remember is ATOM, ATOF, and then FLAMES. Nice. Okay, so it is, you can think of atom, ATOF, flames. Definitely need the anti-collision light system. Okay, we do need the tachometer, and just remember that tachometers are per engine. So every engine has a tachometer. So if you have multiple engine, if it is not a single engine plane, you're gonna need multiple tachometers for that. Then the oil pressure gauge, that is definitely required. Then we have manifold pressure gauge. Okay, then we have altimeter, always keep an eye on the altimeter. Then we've got the temperature gauge, but this is for the liquid cooled engines. If it is air cooled, it is not, like, we're gonna have another one for that. So T is for the temperature gauge, O is for the oil temperature gauge. Again, this is for the air cooled engines. Okay, F is for the fuel gauge. Right, indicating the quantity of the fuel or the gas. Right. Okay, then we have the flotation gear, and this is like, if you are using it for hire, and if you are using it for, over the water beyond, higher, over water is used like the, over water beyond, power of gliding distance, from the shore. So this is for the seaplanes where we are using the we're going to be using the, floating gear. I'm sorry, this is no, apologize for that. This is gonna be if you are using so the floating gear is needed for for a regular plane if the airplane is used for the hire, like, for the hire, if you are like, or renting, right, and you are flying it over the water beyond the power of gliding distance from the shore. So in that case you also need a floating gear. Landing gear, of course we need that. Magnetic direction indicator. E is the emergency, locator emitter. EL, sorry, emergency locator transmitter, ELT. And the S is the safety belts. So here is a comprehensive list for that. He may ask you what are the equipment needed for, and this is our question number 8. Okay, what are the required equipment for the, like the night VFR? So whatever we, covered in the previous one, and you're gonna need these ones. FLAPS is the acronym. Oops, you need to remember. Fuses, and it also dictates that the pilot should have some fuses, like, handy in the cockpit, and the pilot in, command. Spare set of, spare set. He should also have the spare set too if he is flying, the night VFR. Then the landing light. Then we have anti-collision light system. Then we've got the position lights. And some source of electrical energy. Electrical energy. What it means is like it should have adequate for all the installed electrical and radio equipment. Okay, now we're gonna cover that who can perform the 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 maintenance on the aircraft. So the maintenance of an aircraft, right? Following people, basically A&P mechanic, but FAA certified A&P mechanic. The second one is A&P mechanic who has the inspector authorization. Remember that one, who can also do the annual inspection? The same person, the A&P mechanic with the inspector authorization. Third one is appropriately rated FAA certified repair station. And the fourth one is the aircraft manufacturer. Okay, okay. What is a preventive maintenance? Preventive. So remember this one, that it is basically maintenance. This means that simple or minor prevention operations and the replacement of small standard parts not involve any complex operations. That is called the preventive maintenance, as the name suggests. And the last thing we wanted to cover is like uh, what logbook entry information is required of a person performing the preventive maintenance. And remember that this preventive maintenance can be done by the pilots too, not the student pilot or anything like a sports pilot, but a private pilot license holder can just do the preventive maintenance. And what should how should what logbook entry information is required, right? uh, so logbook entry information is required by the person performing preventive maintenance. So all pilots who maintain and perform preventive maintenance must make an entry in the maintenance record of the aircraft. So basically, it's gonna include description of what you did and the date of the completion of the work performed, and and then the information related to who did it, the pilot's name, and those kind of things. Those were the things we wanted to cover. Thanks for watching.